Alright everyone, we start off today with Kitty co-host giving the news. Oh, actually it's me. I'm actually a cleverly disguised cat myself. Trump he put out a memo to the Republican Party that he intends to expand the battleground map. So these are states that are going to be seriously contested, and I agree with a couple of them. A couple of them are really going to be tough sells, and New Mexico has not gone red, for example, in a while. Link in the description, not archived, it's just a Twitter post from Newswire actually confirming this. The new battlegrounds to be listed: Minnesota, Virginia, New Jersey, and New Mexico. Two of these are good ideas. Minnesota is going to be close. It looks like it's tacking in the direction of Wisconsin. It is winnable. Is it likely? At the moment, we don't have enough polling to know that. We've got exactly one poll showing effectively a tie there. I think it'll be close. Virginia, absolutely. Go for Virginia because we've got two tied polls. If you get a third, or it shows that within the margin of error, it's like, Biden's a point ahead, Trump's a point ahead. Certainly you would want to contest that state. It would be ludicrous not to do so. If you could take the 2016 map and add even just one more state on it, it's a ringing rebuke of Joe Biden. It's a stunning endorsement of Donald Trump. And it's almost like a national protest vote when you think about it. The system has indicted Donald Trump. He's the first former president to be indicted for a crime. And people basically ignored the verdict. Nobody cared. If anything, he gained slight support because of that. It was sort of like the original indictment. That shot him ahead 7 points in the primaries. People effectively shrugged their shoulders and said, okay, oh my God, a fraud? Who cares about these things? New Mexico, I would not bother contesting. I think that's a bit of bravado on Trump's part. Now, it could be that Joe Biden continues in his general decline, and that's not exactly unlikely. The problem is that New Mexico had been so blue for so long. I think it would be difficult for the metric to move enough for it to truly be competitive. You could get close. If Trump can only lose by 5 points there, it's still technically a victory for a Republican candidate. I would say, and the other one is New Jersey. Despite the rally that he held there where 100,000 people showed up, not all of those people were from New Jersey. There were certainly people from Pennsylvania, upstate New York, etc. that piled in for that one. It's one of the largest political rallies that we've ever seen, actually. In fact, I think it might be the largest, actually. Certainly for Donald Trump. I mean, it's not unusual for him to pull in 5,000-10,000 people. 80 to 100,000 is a lot of people. But you got to understand that you're in a large urban area within proximity, and so naturally, if he shows up in a place where there's 30 million people within, not that long a bike ride's distance, he's going to get more people at the rally. It's good to make a feint, I think. That is to put Biden on the defense there, force him to waste resources by campaigning there. But there are two other obvious states that aren't on at least this particular list that I think really seriously should be contended. New Hampshire, which hasn't gone for a Republican in, half a generation. And Maine, actually. Now, these are interesting cases. We don't have reliable polling from those states, but the unofficial polling, which was done in both states, shows effectively a dead heat. So we don't have what we have in Virginia, where you've got several aggregated polls that show a tie, but you have sort of a foreshock warning for the Biden administration. Hey, you're not doing that great in New England. It's doable for Donald Trump to pick those states off. The reason why he'd go for Minnesota over New Hampshire is mainly about the number of electors that you get, and the number of electoral votes. But Virginia would be, I think, the big one. Two polls in a row showing a tie within the same contemporary polling period from aggregated sources. A state that had been leaning red until, again, the last, 20 years or thereabouts, the last few cycles. That's definitely doable. Minnesota looks doable, and it's probably following in the wake of Wisconsin. I think part of that is because of industry more than anything. That's like the Union Dems flocking back to Trump and away from Biden. You'll remember in 2020, there was an authentic movement towards the Democratic Party among the Union Dems in the Rust Belt states. while there was certainly a honking going on in the election, you can't ignore the fact that there was that organic movement in that direction, and turnout was very, very high. I like the one article, you can read it on RCP actually right now as of making this video, saying, oh, don't let the polls fool you. Just ignore the polls like you did in 2016. The Republicans have a turnout problem. Yes, the Republican Party has been deficient in harvesting ballots and getting people to the polls early and all the other things. That's why I've argued that my audience, if you're in the United States, if you're capable of early voting, you should early vote. You don't know what's going to happen on Election Day. You can still show up. You know, you don't have to, you can't take a ballot on that day, but you can still show up and mill about and talk to a few people and do the civic thing. It's probably best to vote early. And if you're a Democrat, of course, you vote early and often. Sometimes from the grave. Apparently, Wasted Bonehead is the only dead person that doesn't vote Democrat within the United States. Of this list, though, Virginia's the big one. Minnesota is the doable, outside chance one. New Mexico and New Jersey, unless there is a significant movement in the polls, are basically, that's a feint. That's to cause Joe Biden to waste resources. I don't think that Donald Trump actually believes he'll win New Jersey. If anyone's going to do it, it would be Donald Trump, and so I suppose it's possible. It's just like maybe a 10% chance or something like that. Certainly trying to target New York would be off the table, at least at the moment. In a couple of election cycles, though, with the way that state's moving, that might be leaning in that direction, too. I mean, look at what Lee Zeldin managed to do. I'd be very surprised if Lee Zeldin didn't have a substantial role within a Trump administration at some level. Not necessarily in the executive capacity, but it's at some state level of organization or something like that. Trump's going to stump for him, I'm sure. And that's potentially doable. Focus on Virginia. I would also add New Hampshire to the list and or Maine. Just do one or the other, basically, because, again, you need that better polling to come in first. But I think that they're going to be closer than most people expect. I expect that if the election were held today, it would be the 2016 map plus Trump winning Virginia, pretty much. He might lose one of those Rust Belts. He could lose Wisconsin, certainly. He could lose Michigan. That gives him the election, by the way. Nevada's leering off way in the red direction at this point. Georgia and North Carolina are increasingly off the table. We're halfway through June. The Democrats keep losing ground, at least in that particular race. Down ballot, they also have a problem, though. They have a problem with the Senate. They're having to guard 2-to-1 competitive seats. Most of the Republican seats which are up, the Republican incumbents, are in safely red areas where they don't have to worry too much. And now watch. The GOP will do one last drastic thing that it always does. It'll inexplicably divert funds from the competitive battleground races to people that are guaranteed to win. Like that $10 million that Mitch McConnell gave to Murkowski up in Alaska, even though both candidates were Republicans. You will see more of that. That's even more pernicious than the ballot printers going burr because it's from within the same political party. The same civic construct that supposedly is, we're loyal Republicans, grand old party, yeah, baby. Republicans are pretty good at that. You never see the Democrats doing such things. They'll circle wagons, to the end of time, unless it's Al Franken or Bob Menendez. I can't think of anyone else they haven't circled wagons for. With the Republicans, I can't think of a person that they do circle wagons for. One little thing happens and they throw them under the bus. Very strange political movement. That's about all. Peace out.